Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my news show. Today is 21st of August. Now it's 4 past 11 in the morning, Moscow time. I'm a bit late due to some technical issues, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news and some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to, and hopefully you will find this episode informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, dear friends, please like the video and leave some commentary in the comment section, not just in the chat, but in the comment section too. It is important to at least try to influence algorithms on the both of my channels that I'm streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble. Also, after new segment, I will join community chat for a little while. Um, I will just remind you, dear friends, that you can use the super chat or round feature on Rumble to highlight any question or commentary that you want. And yes, that's about it. Also, dear friends, almost forget, I have an announcement to make, which is that this evening at about 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Moscow time, I will have a second live stream with a guest. With a guest that you most likely are familiar with. I'm not gonna make a further announcement on that, but I will have a military expert and a political commentator as a guest on a show. Hopefully, it will work out. There will be no technical issues or any other reasons to uh, postpone the program. So yes, this is the announcement. By the way, today, this evening at 10 p.m., most likely I will have a second live stream with a guest that many of you are familiar. That being said, dear friends, let's start with the news segment now, and because quite a few members of our community watched my second live stream yesterday. That was not really announced during the first update, although I arranged the stream some 1.5 hours before it started. But nevertheless, yesterday's second update only has like 1,200 views for this moment. So therefore, of course, I will repeat some of the news that I shared yesterday in that second live stream. And first of all, dear friends, let me share with you this report from RIA Novosti, and many other media outlets also paid attention to this report that Russian hacker group KillNet managed to gain access to database of Kiev regime's defense ministry and received information about actual casualty numbers on side of this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. Let me give you details on that. So more than 1.7 million Ukrainian armed forces fighters have been killed or missing since the start of special military operation. Initially, this was reported by Telegram channel Mash, citing the database of the general staff of the Ukrainian armed forces, which was hacked by Russian hackers. We have quote from that publication: Ukraine lost 1.7 million servicemen during their special military operation. Mechanical mistakes in the translation of these pages sometimes are quite annoying. So yes, 1.7 million casualties on part of Kiev regime's forces. According to Mash channel, hackers got hold of files containing the full names of their militants, information about their place of their death or disappearance, personal data, contacts of their closest relatives, and the photographs. So basically, this was a major breach of security of Kiev regime's defense ministry, general staff, and all the data that Kiev regime has now is in Russian hands also. And of course, this hacker group, KillNet, will share additional information in upcoming days. So in 3 years, by the way, since the beginning of a special military operation, Ukraine have lost 1.7 1,721,000 people, to be more precise, military personnel, that is, soldiers and officers. We have some specifics here. 118,000 troops were lost by Kyiv regime in 2022, 405,000 troops in 2023, 595,000 troops in 2024, and 621,000 in 2025, which is not ended yet. It's only August, right? So this year continues, and the number of losses of Kyiv regime's forces will increase in 2025. The KillNet group confirmed to RIA Novosti news agency that it hacked the database through their work computer of their head of the logistics department, whose last name was Chernykh. The information was stored in their OneDrive cloud resources. We are talking about photographs of their dead militants, their passports, and military IDs, death certificates, and the dog tags. In addition, hackers gained access to data from the command of the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, as well as a list of countries that supplied military aid and weapons during this conflict to this terrorist regime of Zelensky. And I guess many of you are potentially shocked to hear this horrendous number of casualties on part of Kyiv regime, although, by the way, number of military experts, including Western ones, by the way, for example, US retired Colonel Douglas McGregor, at least on several occasions that I personally watched, for example, on Judge Napolitano's show, actually mentioned their losses of the Kyiv regime to be over a million. Right, and now we have more specifics on that. There are speculations now on internet until KillNet hacker group will release full data. This speculation is going to continue. How many military personnel of Kyiv regime is designated as missing? Speculations are that from 300,000 to 500,000 are missing. Million plus are killed as a result of hostilities. Yet again, in upcoming days, we're going to find out more details about this, of course. And well, this is the result, by the way. This is the result of anti-human policies of globalists, Western ruling class, that orchestrated their coup d'etat in 2014 in Kiev, put in charge neo-Nazi terrorist formations, and then began provoked not just civil war in the eastern regions, but basically began sacrificing residents of this former Soviet republic. 1.7 million personnel of Kyiv regime's armed forces are killed or missing. Also, by the way, millions upon millions of civilians have been displaced as a result of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And we have a clear indicator that if globalists and globalist controlled or globalist puppet regimes in the collective West are not stopped, they will continue this proxy war as long as they can, and they will sacrifice literally everybody on Kyiv controlled territory. And if they have to, then they will begin sacrificing citizens of EU and NATO member states too. This is a clear warning and a message, not just for residents on Kyiv controlled territory, but also to citizens of EU and NATO. That's what their political elites are, actually, right? And this hacker group, KillNet, also released the information about countries that were supplying weapons to this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. It's more than 14 countries have sent weapons and munition to Ukraine since the start of a special military operation, including Israel and Georgia. The Telegram channel Mash writes, citing the database of their general staff of the armed forces of Ukraine, which was hacked by Russian hackers, This is the entire European Union, by the way. All members of the EU were sending weapons and munition, and they're assisting one way or another this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, including Hungary and Slovakia, by the way. About Slovakia, we know about it. Government of Fico accused previous regime, basically, of demilitarizing Slovakia. That's the volume of weapons and munition that was transferred by previous Slovakian government to Zelensky's regime. But in regards to Hungary, well, reports were that Hungary was not participating in this weapon supply, weapon shipments. But well, this database of armed forces of Ukraine says otherwise, which is well, something to keep in mind. And also, it is unfortunate and grave mistake on part of government of Georgia that this former Soviet republic was also involved in weapons and munition supplies to Kiev regime, according to this database. But anyways, let's go through this list of the countries. So there is an entire European Union, by the way, in this list. Also Albania, Iceland, Macedonia, Montenegro, Norway, US, Australia, Canada, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, Georgia, Turkey, and Israel. And obviously, Moscow will keep in mind this information while conducting diplomatic or political or whatever relationships with these states and the quasi-states, right? Also, dear friends, to continue, we have this report from RIA Novosti that Russian militaries liberated 3 more settlements on the line of contact. Information is confirmed by Russian Defense Ministry. Let me give you some specifics on that. So units of a center group of forces continue to advance into depth of their enemy defenses and liberated the settlements of Sukhitskoye and Pankovka of the Donetsk People's Republic. Report says Ukrainian armed forces on the area of responsibility of center group of forces lost more than, in just previous 24 hours, by the way, lost more than 405 military personnel, 2 combat armored vehicles, 7 cars, 3 artillery pieces. Same time, the Vostok or East group of forces of the Russian military also liberated the settlement of Novogeorgievka in the Dnipropetrovsk region. And in previous 24 hours on this on sector of the responsibility of East group of forces, Kiev regime lost more than 200 military personnel, 2 tanks, 10 cars, Western-made multi-launch rocket system, field artillery gun, and 2 electronic warfare stations. So 3 more settlements, liberation of 3 more settlements have been confirmed by Russian Defense Ministry, although in reality, I'm quite sure more settlements were liberated, but being tremendously conservative institution, Russian Defense Ministry, of course, always, almost always takes quite a lot of time before confirms the progress of the Russian armed forces on the battlefield. So therefore, today, day after today, I mean tomorrow, we might learn more about further progress of the Russian armed forces on the battlefield. And let me show you on the map, dear friends, where these settlements are located. So when it comes to DPR, this is there are 2 settlements you can see on your screen now. These stars, by the way, star icons. That's the location of their settlements that were liberated. Both settlements geographically are basically in between Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration and Konstantinovka or Slavyansk-Kramatorsk, one might say. And progress of the Russian armed forces in this area is clearly very visible, isn't it? Very visible. So this is the settlement of Sukhetskoye, and this is a settlement of Pankovka. And you can see this gray zone, by the way. This gray zone is a sort of contested area, but in reality, this is the area that Russian armed forces are mainly in control. Now. It's only a matter of time when Defense Ministry will actually acknowledge this progress of the Russian militaries. Also, dear friends, reports are coming in that Russian armed forces further intensify military operations inside the Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Russian DRGs are operating relatively freely, by the way, in both these cities, and it is more and more noticeable that Russian DRGs are present there, including in the central parts of Pokrovsk, by the way. All the southern western flank, or the settlements on the southern western flank from Pokrovsk are under full Russian control. And if we take a look at the Mirnograd, by the way, city is basically in operational encirclement. Same can be said in general about Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction. They have only one road left, this E50 road, for supply and support. I mean, Kiev regime's garrison in this area, and this E50 highway, or this only supply and support line that Kiev regime has left, is also under Russian fire control, under Russian artillery control, under Russian drone control, and the Russian DRGs, by the way, obviously are operating in this area too. If they are operating inside the Pokrovsk and the central parts of it, then obviously one should assume that Russian DRGs are even more present along this highway to make sure that Kiev regime's garrison in this Pokrovsk and Mirnograd not gonna receive any reinforcement and resupplies at least as freely as Kiev regime would like. Also, dear friends, during the night time, during the last night, Russian armed forces conducted quite a large-scale drone and missile strikes, long-range drone and missile strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime. I can give you some details on that as I posted on my Telegram and Twitter X page this morning. So last night, the Russian armed forces carried out another long-range targeted strike on the military and logistical infrastructure of the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. Strike drones and missiles, including hypersonic Kinzhal missiles, by the way, at least 4 of them, according to independent sources, reached their targets in the areas of Kiev, Kharkov, Dnipropetrovsk, Pavlograd, Lutsk, Lvov, and also in Transcarpathia region, and many others, by the way. There was a number of other directions too. In Sumy was, for example, also Russian strikes. So relatively large scale, long-range precise strike by Russian forces, and I believe quite successful, because all morning, by the way, videos and photos are circulating on internet about aftermath of these strikes. Military infrastructure, military airfields were targeted, logistical points, and also factories of military industrial complex of Kiev regime that still are operational. And one of those factories were actually targeted in Transcarpathia region, for example. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that according to latest briefing of Russian Defense Ministry, during the nighttime, during the past night, Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 49 drones that were launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Specifics are that 21 drones was intercepted over the Rostov region, 7 drones over the Voronezh region, 5 over Belgorod, 4 over Crimea Peninsula, 3 each over the Bryansk and Kaluga regions, 2 each over the Oryol region, and the Black Sea, 1 each over the Kursk and the Tula regions. On Thursday morning, several settlements in the Voronezh region were left without power due to drone attack, and on the Rososh Sakhanovka section, rail traffic was suspended due to drone attacks that Kiev regime and NATO were conducting. Railway communication has been resumed by this moment. Delayed trains have set off on their routes. Also, dear friends, let me give you this report, which is obviously, I think, interesting and important one, that United Aircraft Corporation of Russia has delivered another batch of Su-35S multi-role fighters to Russian aerospace forces. You can see on your screen now planes that were transferred to Russian Air Force. And just about a week ago, by the way, there was also additional report about delivery of to Russian aerospace forces, delivery of new batch of Su-34 frontline bombers also. So Russian military industrial complex is working 24/7, by the way, to increase speed of delivery of the weapons and the weapon systems, munition that is ordered by defense ministry. And when it comes to Su-35, if Su-34, in my personal opinion, is one of the best, if not the best, strike aircraft at this point in service anywhere in this world, then Su-35, yet again, in my personal opinion, is our best 4++ generation fighter jet in service. Literally best, by the way. I don't think even latest F-15 can compete with the Su-35S. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.